It may well be the case that a lot of people in the United Kingdom believe that there is too much immigration into the islands, into the United Kingdom. That may be right, but the fact is this is because of inter-European immigration. This is because people from the the Eastern Bloc, as it used to be, people from the European countries have migrated to the United Kingdom for economic reasons or whatever. That may well be the case, but why use the rest of the world as a scapegoat? And the reason for that, of course, is because the government can do nothing about the European immigration. They can't do anything about it. Their hands are tied. So as a result, they're punishing people like people from the rest of the world. They're punishing them very selectively. And they're the ones who are going to suffer. And they are suffering. And it's very unfair, because at this point in time, for example, it is still the case that if you can't speak English, you can't join your spouse here in the United Kingdom. What they should be saying is that if you apply as a spouse to come to the United Kingdom, even if you can't speak English, you can come, but we will not grant you indefinite leave to remain until you pass your English IELTS exam or whatever. That's fine, but they're not saying that. They're saying you can't even cross the border. You have to stay there, learn English, then come here. And otherwise you can't come here. And I find that bizarre, because you have a lot of people from Britain. Some people say it's a good argument because, you know, they should be able to speak here. If they want to live here, they should be able to speak here. But if you turn that argument on its head, there are a lot of British people in the oil-rich countries, the oil-producing countries of the Middle East, for example, where they go there for their economic reasons. They live there, in Riyadh, in Dubai, wherever else it is, in the oil fields of other countries. They don't speak Arabic. There's no requirement to speak Arabic. They don't want to speak Arabic. You know, but they want to have their cake and they want to eat it. When the British were in India, as it then was, including Bangladesh, for the last 200 years, they were there for 200 years. They did whatever they wanted to do. And I dare say most of them did not learn English. They did learn two words. And both words are the same, jaldi, jaldi. And that was get on with it, quickly, quickly. Because they, well, I mean, I have my own reasons as to what the motive was. Maybe it's not appropriate here, it's not necessarily. But the fact is that why on earth should somebody be required to speak English at a particular level to enter the country? I can understand if it's necessary to be granted indefinite leave. But why to enter? I have my own concerns about that. But if the British government, or if any government, wants to understand human rights, the concept of human rights, bearing in mind that they've only come into human rights very recently. We're talking about a country which only gave the women the right to vote in living memory, which only abolished slavery in places like America within living memory, which still practices in certain parts of the world breaches of human rights, in my opinion, such as what we see taking place in Libya at the moment. In my opinion, it is a flagrant, fundamental breach of human rights to invade a sovereign nation. But that's my own opinion. What I think they need to do is look at the examples of our own history and our own heritage. There's a best example, Hazrat Bilal radiallahu anhu. You know, 1400 years ago, our Prophet ﷺ gave an example of human rights when he demonstrated that a slave and a king are just the same. When they stood shoulder to shoulder on the same line without any distinction, to pray before the one same God. That was an elimination of all forms of discrimination. That is a very important lesson that any government, even today's government, can learn, you know, from. Then don't worry about anything. Inshallah, আমরা লগে আল্লাহ আছেন যদিন আমরা মনে করি দেন আমরা এগেইনস্টে তারা কোনো আইন করে আমরা এটা ফাইট করব আপনারা দয়া আমরা ব্যারিস্টার হইছে আমরা কোর্টের দরজা একটু দেখি আপনারা লাগে আমরা ইনশাআল্লাহ কন্টিনিউ ফাইট করব আমরা লাইক দয়া একটু করব.
But one thing I wanted to say in relation to what Honorable has said about human rights, this government has a serious problem with the statistics received from the courts. A lot of cases of human rights that go to the courts are allowed. Now, a lot of times we see that if the judge is satisfied this person has established a private and family life in this country over the last 5-6 years, and this is what our community, people from our community have a problem. They don't have evidence. They can't prove that they've actually established private and family life. If this statistics goes back to Europe, they will be criticized. So what they did, they found a loophole. Okay, the loophole is this. Every case that is made under human rights, they would refuse it, but they wouldn't issue removal directions. Because they didn't issue removal directions, you have no right of appeal. And suddenly they would catch you somewhere. You know, you're walking on the car, or you're in the car with friends. They'll catch you, put you in detention center. You go 3 days, they'll remove you. And that's how they are doing it.
Due to lack of time, Shafiqur Rahman, would you like to come back to anything?
আনোয়ার ভাইয়ের সাথে আমি একটু অ্যাড করব আমরা চিন্তার কোনো কারণে আমি আগেই বলেছি আনোয়ার ভাই বলছেন উনি আছেন আমরা সবাই আছি কমিউনিটি যারা লয়ার আছি আমরা অবশ্যই চেষ্টা করব প্রোটেকশন যে প্রোটেক্টেড রাইটগুলো যাদের আছে সেগুলো আমরা অবশ্যই রাইটগুলো যা থাকে আমরা ক্যাম্পেইন করব দরকার আমরা কোর্টে যাব চ্যালেঞ্জ করব আমরা তো সার্ভিস দিয়ে যাব কমিউনিটিকে যারা এফেক্টেড হবেন যদি কোনো চেঞ্জ আসে এখনো সময় আছে দেখার বিষয় আমি বলছি সবাইকে ওয়েট করতে হবে কি চেঞ্জটা আছে আসে বিল অফ রাইটে সেটা আমাদের দেখার ব্যাপার
Same. Human rights is fundamental rights of the people of everywhere in the world, and obviously we'll have to protect our rights. আমার মনে হয় না এমন কিছু করতে দেওয়া হবে এই সরকারকে যেটা আমাদের ফান্ডামেন্টাল রাইটসে আঘাত করে।
Manur Islam was saying that the Bill of Rights will introduce things that perhaps that the ECHR did not cover.
It's mostly the citizens of this country.
Do you think that will be helpful for us, or do you think it will be more of a muddle law? Or do you think that we need the Bill of Rights?
Well, listen, they can gild the lily as long as they like. The only core reason that they're introducing the Bill of Rights is to close and narrow the focus of the existing Human Rights Act. Because they read in the Daily Mail and all the other newspapers that too many people are being able to stay in the United Kingdom when they really shouldn't be here, and we've got too many of these people anyway. And they're quite scared, and they want to placate these people.
Yeah.
And the fact is that when they say that we'll introduce a Bill of Rights, it's not because they would like to give you more rights.
No.
They're not handing human rights out like lollipops. It's not happening. They're trying to say, look, we will clamp down on this. We will show that we are doing something about it. We will make sure that we are protecting the citizens of Great Britain. And that includes us, because we all are citizens of the United Kingdom. And if I want to bring my wife over here, that is my right too.
I mean, is there a threat to the sovereignty of Parliament? Judges have to interpret everything. The doctrine of, what is it called, stad decisis, precedents, and they have to go back to, they have to follow the judgments in Strasbourg. Does that undermine sovereignty of Parliament and the legislature in this country?
Well, the sovereignty has been assigned to Europe. Europe is the governing.
Well, but this is one of the reasons. That's why they want the Bill of Rights. What they are saying is they actually pass the acts in a way. If it is incompatible with Bill of Rights, then they will say so. This is incompatible with Bill of Rights. So this act will be lawfully enacted.
I think what it is that we had the Maastricht Treaty, we had the Lisbon Treaty. Essentially, a number of rights were given up to Europe, as it were. And although the government of the United Kingdom might try and do a play on it to make sure that they restrain or dilute the extent of the human rights, I think much as they try to, I think it will be very difficult.
Finally,
Supreme Court Deputy President বলছেন একটা অনুষ্ঠানে, all this jurisprudence is there, and the right of the individual petition will be there, and we will still have to recognize that if we take a decision which is contrary to the Human Rights Convention, somebody is going to complain to the Strasbourg, and that may cause trouble for the UK. So it is very difficult to see how simply wiping out the Human Rights Act is really going to change anything until we withdraw from the convention, which personally I don't think is conceivable. It is the Deputy Vice President, the Supreme Court.
ঠিক আছে, I mean, even then, I mean, there are always other checks and balances where you cannot just override somebody's human rights. So, Pradarshak, we have come to the end. The final words is that the Human Rights Act is basically, it's a very special kind of act in that it, আপনাদের Human Rights Act যেটা করেছে আমাদের জন্য, সব Parliamentary Act from 1,000 years before in the precedent books, in the statute books, to সামনে দিয়ে যত acts আরো আসবে, যত ল আছে, সবগুলিরে এক ধরনের infiltrate করে. So therefore, it's a very special kind of law. It's a higher kind of law. It's fabulous. It has come to use. It has made us aware and more conscious about human rights. When I say us, I don't mean just lawyers. I mean like the public bodies, the NHS, all over the country. It has been nothing but positive. There has been, we talked about, Anwar Babu also talked about irresponsibility of politicians when they're using it to get votes and somehow distorting the আর্টিকেলগুলো, যেমন আর্টিকেল 8 আমার মনে হয় কিছুটা বিকৃত হয়েছে in the media like it's distorted to help achieve the aims of certain politicians. এই নিয়ে আজকের জন্য শেষ।